this is Halloween, and today we will be visiting 2 pioneer cemeteries in Clearwater. These cemeteries are the final resting places for some of the most renowned early settlers of the Clearwater area here in Florida. We'll go ahead and get started. Enjoy! We're here at Rousseau Pioneer Cemetery. It was established in 1870 and home to a lot of the original pioneers of Clearwater. It is one of the oldest private family cemeteries here in Clearwater, and it has just under 200 burials. Now, to come here, you would look at it and it looks like maybe there's 20 burials. It's literally in the middle of a traffic loop, and it's on a little bit of a raised hill. So there's not much to it at all. You could probably walk the whole cemetery in about 5 minutes. The Rousseau family actually were French, and they came here and resettled. We're already in. There's no gate or anything, so I imagine you can come at any time, including in the middle of the night if you are a ghost hunter. It's another one that is not blocked off by any means or fenced in. So we'll go in and see what we can see. This is the entire cemetery, just right in the middle of a traffic loop. There is the Harn. There's a Harn Street here in Clearwater, named after this family here. Harn. Sever is over there. Another street name. There's a very old tombstone, and it's so old I can't even read the date on it. Looks like the name is Blanton. My son went to Blanton Elementary, so there's a elementary school named Blanton here. There's where the Allen family is buried. The Rousseaus are actually over here. The French family that relocated here to Clearwater and were some of the first pioneers here to settle. There they are. More Rousseaus, it looks like, back in here. And here are some more very old headstones, which you know I love. I'm going to take some still shots, but interestingly enough about this cemetery as well is there is a urban legend that surrounds the cemetery. Back in the 80s, there's a high school right around here, and it was said that a young woman had been killed here in years prior. It was on her prom night. Her and her boyfriend were coming through here, to get to the high school, and they crashed for some reason, and she perished in that car crash. And it's said that late at night, a young woman haunts right around the cemetery, this area, because this is where the crash happened. So she does haunt the area close to the cemetery, still dressed in her prom dress. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that urban legend, but it's definitely a long-standing one. So I'm going to take some still shots, but I've just walked pretty much the whole cemetery. Pretty cool. I actually like little ones like this because it's just so unique from all the big cemeteries that we see nowadays. Some of the ones that I've been to, it has a lot of very old headstones. I mean, dating back to 1870, and a lot of famous people, early settlers from here in Clearwater. So, pretty cool. I read online that there was an infant section of burials where it's all actually infants that are buried, and this is the little area where the infants are buried. There's one there, one over here. Just says infant of CGI and Annie Crowley, August 3rd, and I can't read the date. 1901, I believe it is. This one here, infant of CGI and Annie Crowley as well. Born July 21st, 1902. Died July 24th, 1902. So this family really had a lot of grief losing so many children. This one I can't really read. It's hard to read the words. Infant son of W.D. Rousseau. Born in 1896 and died in 1897. Back then there were a lot of infant deaths because we just didn't have the technology then that we have today to save lives like we do. So that's pretty common. But what I read online was that the Rousseau family buried their young or their infant next to them for protection purposes, I believe. It was said that they would protect the family. So that's all I got from that. But this is pretty much the whole cemetery. We'll go on to our next cemetery. I'm here at McMullen Cemetery. It's another small cemetery with just under 300 burials, established in 1852 right here in Clearwater. Again, a lot of the famous people that the streets are named after, a lot of the streets' namesakes are buried here. So let's go in and see what we can see. This is going to be another one that's located about in the center of a neighborhood. You know, it's not smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. There's a main street here, but as you can see, it's not fenced in, it's not gated at all, and it's very, very small. If you were to guess, you probably would never guess that there's just under 300 burials here. Basically, we just looked at all of it in my camera here. So we're gonna go around and visit some of these old pioneers. There are some newer burials here. So I don't think this one is actually closed off to the general public yet. You can still be buried here. Looks like there's plenty of space too. And for all of you ghost hunters out there, like I said, it's not fenced in. So this is one that would be easily accessible at night as long as you're respectful. You could come in and do investigation here. Here is the resting place of James Paramore McMullen. His namesake was from both his father and his grandfather, and his middle name, Paramore, coming from his grandmother. He is who the cemetery is named after. And McMullen Booth Road is also named after this pioneer of Clearwater. He was one of the earliest settlers in the Tampa Bay area, back when the region bore nothing more than palmetto trees and swampland. He was one of 12 children, and of 6 boys, he was the 3rd son born into the family. Growing up in Burke County, now Bullock County, Georgia, his mother and father originally hailed from Scotland. Being the 3rd born son rendered young James blessed, according to Scottish legend. Growing up, James and all of his siblings endured a primitive lifestyle, which included hunting, fishing, riding horses, and tending to crops and livestock. James never did have a consistent formal education, but took to educating himself by reading and studying. In the spring of 1842, at the age of 18, he became ill with tuberculosis. And in an effort to stop the rest of his family basically from getting sick from the same illness, he was given a horse and set due south to the Florida territory. At that time, the illness was taking so many lives that his parents just didn't want to take any chances by him perhaps making the rest of the family ill. So with just very little possessions, a horse, a dog, a bedroll, a gun, bullet molds, and powder, he headed south to Florida. And while in Florida, he settled in Rocky Point, purchased a sailboat, and would take excursions all around the Bay Area in the fresh air and sunshine. And on one of the excursions, he crossed the bay and was smitten when he came upon a bluff. This later became the settlement of Bayview in present-day Pinnellas County. This began his lifelong interest in establishing the great city of Clearwater. Prior to his arrival here, it was mostly just Native American Indians and just a handful of settlers that were here. So he kind of made it his life's mission to find new places that hadn't been discovered, settle there, and name them accordingly. So he's quite the important person here in Clearwater, which is probably why his monument is one of the most beautiful in the cemetery, and most of his family is buried here. Now, there's a certain part of the cemetery right over here, and I will show you. And this area right here is where they actually exhumed some of his family that was still buried in Georgia and brought them over to this part of the cemetery and relocated them basically from Georgia so that the family could be reunited in death, you know, here at the McMullen Cemetery. Pretty cool. So all these graves were relocated. Over here it looks like we have well, there's a ladder in there, so I don't think it's a mausoleum. Nothing in there but a ladder and some handyman equipment. So I don't really know what's going on with this building here. It's locked up, so it's a cute little building. It looks like it was maybe meant to be a mausoleum, but never quite became one. Not really sure what the purpose is for this here. Maybe groundskeeper's quarters or a storage area. So this is the entire cemetery here, mostly McMullens. There are some booths buried here as well, McMullen booth. Just a cute little cemetery, a lot of really pretty trees. And right on a pretty busy street here. I believe we're on Coachman Road, or just off of it. So here's Belcher. Yep, you know Belcher Road. This is a Belcher here, but a lot of McMullens in this cemetery. Where the other one was more Rousseau's, this one's more McMullens, and you could see just how old some of these headstones date back to. There's 1906, 1926. Those are actually even newer. Some of these are even older than that. A lot of them are. So, and then some are more recent. A lot more recent. There's some more. This is a whole Belcher plot here. Hackney. So it's pretty cool, you know, a day of pioneers here, seeing where all the pioneers of Clearwater are buried, and that's kind of cool to me. If you read up on all of them, I'm sure there'd be some fascinating things that you would find out about each different one. There's more Hackneys there. I'm going to enjoy the cemetery a bit, and then we'll probably head out of here, because you can walk the whole cemetery in about 10 minutes. We're here at the Mellow Mushroom in Clearwater. Gonna get a bite to eat. Whoa, those were small, but rich with history. I enjoyed our tour of these two cemeteries today. Again, they were the McMullen Cemetery, located off Northeast Coachman, and the Rousseau Cemetery, located on Hercules in Clearwater. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I love these types of smaller cemeteries. Maybe they're small, but they're mighty. A lot of important people buried there. Today we saw the McMullens, we saw the Booths, we saw Drew, we saw Belcher, just everybody that the streets are named after here in Clearwater, or there in Clearwater. I'm in St. Pete, but there in Clearwater, it was pretty awesome. And if you read up on some of these pioneers, just the way that they came here, a lot of times it was by accident, just like James Paramore McMullen. His arrival here was quite accidental. He just stumbled upon it and fell in love. Much like the Fogartys over at the Fogartyville Cemetery in that area of Bradenton, they fell in love with, Mr. McMullen fell in love with Clearwater. So it was all about just stumbling upon it and arriving here and falling in love with the beauty of it and staking their claims to territories here in basically Middle Florida. Anyways, if you loved this video and you love learning about pioneers of the past, you would love my video on Oaklawn Cemetery, where a lot of the pioneers of Tampa are actually buried. Please remember to like, subscribe, share the video. I have noticed that not many people are leaving comments or giving me a thumbs up. I'm getting a lot of views, but not many thumbs up or comments. All of these things are going to help the channel, and they're going to allow me to keep putting these videos out for you. Join me next week. I'm going to be doing a costume, and those are my favorite videos, and I know you guys love them too. It's a surprise, so make sure you tune in, and I'll see you next time.